The following podcast is part of the Underdog Sports Podcast Network. For advertising information or to find more great podcasts, visit us at www.theunderdogsports.com and follow us on Twitter at RealTheUnderdog.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Atlantic Files, the number one podcast on the number one division in the NBA, brought to you by the Underdog Sports Podcast Network. As always, joined by your hosts, myself, Alex Fishbein. We got Mike Bash. We got Dennis Clausen. What's going on, fellas?
Not much. How are you guys doing? Sorry I wasn't there last week, but I'm glad to be back.
It's all right. We talked about it.
At least one of us is.
We talked about it, and we knew you just couldn't show your face last week because you lost to both of us in fantasy football. We get it. We understand.
Hey, I got my first win this week.
True. I mean, I got to give you that. But I did score 214 points this week.
Hey, Alex, you've followed all my advice so far, and now you're one of the best teams in the league. I'm just saying.
Not all of your advice. I didn't trade my draft pick.
Hold on. Yeah, but you drafted Etienne. You could have traded it to me, and I could have had Jamar Chase. But let's just. You're in the position you are because you took some of my advice, and I think a fair repayment of that is taking me to the home opener against the Nets.
Oh, okay. I see where this is going now.
I mean, Dennis, do you disagree?
Yeah, because he should be taking me.
Dennis.
He doesn't want to be seen in public, like in the same place with you.
Oh, will you stop?
But anyway, let's get actually into basketball here. So we are.
Sorry, man. I was going to say we're right here. We're regular season's almost starting.
I know, it's exciting. I mean, like you and I touched on it last week, we got NFL season in full swing. We got the basketball season ready to start. Hockey's ready to start. Baseball playoffs are here. It's always an exciting time for sports in general. Finally, I'm just glad basketball's finally here again. But I shouldn't say basketball, NBA, because I will say the WNBA playoffs have been very exciting. I've been watching them and they've been great. But we talked about it last week, but some new developments happened. Kyrie. Mike wasn't here to talk about it as much, but right now the GM has come out and said that Kyrie is not going to practice. He's not going to play until he gets vaccinated, which originally is kind of like I figured that would happen, but now it's official. So what do you guys think about that?
Dennis, you want to go first? You want me to go?
No, I was just gonna. I don't think the issue here is with whether the fact that he doesn't want the vaccine or not. I don't think the Nets are saying that they're encouraging him to get the vaccine. I'm sure there's players within the organization. Actually, I know there are players within the organization that are probably really upset with him, especially because his views over the years are kind of tied in with his current view, especially for a guy who was so scared of COVID during the bubble days. And now we actually have a vaccine that will help with the situation. And now he's did a complete 180 and now is against it. But I don't think the Nets are saying that they're not telling him that he's not going to play because he's not getting vaccinated. They're saying you're not vaccinated. That's your choice. That's completely fine. However, it is a distraction. It is an inconvenience, primarily when you're trying to game plan and you're trying to do all these things. It's hard to practice with a guy it's hard to game plan for to account for a guy who's not there. It's hard to game prep. It's hard to game plan. It's hard to do all that stuff with a guy who's not there. I do respect his right to not get vaccinated. That's completely fine. However, I completely agree with the Nets by saying we're not going to allow this distraction to be a hindrance on our potential heading into the regular season and possibly beyond. So Kyrie Irving can do what he wants. I'm sure there are people on the phone right now who would be interested in acquiring his services, especially for teams that don't have as strict policies regarding vaccination. However, right now, he's just not going to be in the equation.
So I actually agree with Dennis here on a lot of what Dennis had to say.
Shocking.
Someone booked that. They actually
shocking.
Agreed. So here's my thing with this. I agree with Dennis. He shouldn't be forced to get the vaccine. Of course, Kyrie Irving is taking the position that the vaccine is doing X, Y, Z for you, and that's just because Kyrie Irving's a weirdo. That being said, I don't understand, and I know New York or New York City is trying, and California, I think those are the two. There might be more, but I think those are the two, are trying to be like bigger than everyone else and be like, oh, wait, if you don't have the vaccine, you can get fired from your job or you can't show up to work or X, Y, Z. Why can't Kyrie Irving just produce a negative COVID test before every game and be allowed to play? Like, why is that such an issue? Like, I understand New York City's what they're doing. Like, I understand that's the rule they put in. But if you show up, if you don't want to get the vaccine, whether you work in a hospital or you play basketball, why can't you show up with a negative COVID test and be allowed to play? That's what I don't understand.
Well, I think
because if he's not positive for the virus, then he can't spread it. So the vaccine is a moot point at that point.
Well, that's not true though, because there's a certain amount of time where the virus will stay in you and you'll still produce negative COVID tests. So I think
I'm not trying to get into the medical of this. I'm just saying, like, if you take a test 2 days before, negative, take a test the day before, negative, take a test the day of, negative, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's clearly negative.
That
should be enough to allow him to play.
I mean, normally that would be a perfect idea if testing was dependable, but it's not. It's not reliable. It's not accurate. There's been numerous instances where people have tested negative but still been COVID positive a couple days later after the virus the viral load has had a chance to build up in your system. So I think, but the thing that I don't get though is when even though it's more rare, if you get vaccinated, the chances of you getting it, you could still get it, but it's significantly lower, and the chances of you actually spreading it is significantly lower. But really, the whole point of the vaccine is to stop people from going into the hospital. But to your point, which your point though is normally it would be a great idea. That would be a perfect idea. However, we can't rely on testing because testing is completely garbage.
Fair. But that's my reason for agreeing with Dennis and understanding Kyrie of not wanting the vaccine and not giving it now. There's a lot of belief that in the next 2 weeks, he's either going to get traded or get vaccinated. I know he said if he got traded, he would retire. I don't see that happening, but hey, it's Kyrie Irving. The dude thinks the world is flat. Maybe he gets vaccinated. Who knows? I really don't know. I'd love to see him out there. He is the best point guard in the Atlantic Division. Definitely better than the guy in Philly. And I want to see the Nets at full strength. We got all these guys, but if not, I'm sure Patty Mills can step in and handle the load, and we'll be all right. And we got Kevin Durant and James Harden and Drake Griffin. That's Blake. I know. My buddy calls him Drake, like the rapper. So I had to throw that in there. But no, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. I just would love to see Kyrie play with this team fully healthy, but I guess that'll never happen.
No, I was just gonna say my whole thing about Kyrie is that I don't think it's more of that it's not that he's not getting vaccinated. I just think that this just adds to the long list of Kyrie Irving over the years in terms of he's just got to be a pain in the ass. He's got to make everything difficult. So I think the frustration is not with the vaccination per se. It's more in terms of this guy's a pain in the ass, and he's going to make everything more difficult than he has to be. And then when you see him on Twitter, or Instagram, or where the hell he was on, basically talking like, he's like a cult leader. I'm going to stand for my people, for my followers, and all this stuff. I mean, basically, it really has nothing to do with the vaccine. It's just he's a pain in the ass, and I think people are just sick of it. And I think it stems from last season when he was, on a sabbatical, and he was seen at his sister's birthday party, and he just is injured all the time, and blah, blah, blah. The list goes on and on with this guy. So I think we're at the point now to where if Joe Harris did this, there wouldn't be that big of a, well, it's Joe Harris for one, but two, like, they'd be like, okay, maybe Joey's got a point. I understand, blah, blah, blah. But it's Kyrie Irving, and the reactions like, this guy is a pain in the ass. Like, he's always got to make everything more difficult than it needs to be.
Yeah. I mean, because you even saw that response with Andrew Wiggins. Like, he wouldn't get vaccinated at first either. And San Francisco was another one of those places that wasn't going to let him play if he wasn't vaccinated. And I mean, people gave him crap for it just because at this point, everyone just wants everyone to get the vaccine so that we can get finally back to like normal life. But they weren't like with Kyrie, like, oh, this guy, all of his views and all of his crazy stuff. I mean, because you don't have like Andrew Wiggins wasn't saying the earth was flat. He wasn't like he wasn't coming with sage to games. He wasn't doing all that. But when Kyrie does that, and now he's like, I don't really believe in the vaccine, then you start going like, well, kind of saw that coming. But at the same time, like, dude, just stop being a distraction.
So like, and two, with him, I just think we're at the point where it is a huge distraction. And the mentality around the league is that you should be doing whatever you can to help your teammates. So I think Andrew Wiggins kind of gained a lot of respect probably from his teammates by saying, listen, I don't want to get this vaccine. I don't agree with it. However, I need to get on the floor and I need to play, and I'm going to do whatever it is that I need to do to get on the floor, to be there for my teammates. So if I got to inject something in me, regardless of my own personal beliefs, regardless of I'm bowing down to a certain agenda or whatever, he still did the thing where he wants to get out there, so he made the sacrifices to do it. He basically sacrificed himself for the team. And whether you think Kyrie Irving should do that or not, it's a different, but I'm sure there's a lot of his teammates who were saying, we have a legitimate chance to win a title this year because this guy's craziness over the years and his whole anti-vaccine stance isn't related to really his beliefs more so than I think he's just crazy. And I think people are like, this guy's crazy, which is the reason why he's not getting the vaccine, not because he's actually educated about it. He just comes across as a lunatic, as a nutcase. So it's kind of hard to take him seriously when he's over the years historically done and said stupid things.
Right. Yeah. No, I completely agree. And I mean, when it comes down to it, it's like you said, it's just like you need to help out your team. And I will leave it at the thing that I thought was very interesting is I saw somebody tweet out, I think it was the Josh Eberle guy. He said, why would any other team, because it came to like people wanting to trade for Kyrie and the rumors of maybe trading Ben Simmons for Kyrie, that kind of stuff. He was like, why would any team want to trade for Kyrie when he's in his hometown playing with one of his best friends and trying to like prove himself to be able to win a ring without LeBron, and he still won't get the vaccine? So like, he's like, with all those things, another team, you look at that, it's like, sure, the city you're in might be a little more lax on the whole vaccine front. But like, if he won't even do that for all of those reasons, why would he be there for your team? And then I think that spoke volumes, to be honest.
Well, his loyalty over the years too, when you see him away on sabbaticals and things like that, people are just like, Kyrie's might just be using this as a way to keep him off the floor for half the year, whatever, before he can ultimately just say, okay, I feel like playing this week, and he'll start playing. So, but I said it a long time ago that these trade rumors had to have started somewhere. And when it first came out in the summer that Kyrie was kind of being out there on the trade market, I said that there has to be something going on within the organization for that to happen, because there's no way that that type of stuff will get leaked out unless somebody important was saying things to somebody who said something to somebody who said something to somebody. So regardless whether these guys are friends or not, you know damn well that Kevin Durant, you know that James Harden, they're probably not really that thrilled with him right now. So it's probably been discussed among people who said things to other people that they just want this guy out of here because they think that he's crazy.
Yep. No, I completely agree. Mike, anything to add before we move on?
No, I agree with Dennis. I think this guy is just a handful, and my thoughts were actually let him play half the time. He's bound to get injured anyway, so if he only plays 41 games, maybe we get him in the playoffs. And I figured my other thought process is I figured, okay, he plays half the games, part-time player. Sometime in January, sometime in February, New York City's going to lift this rule, and he'll be able to play every game.
I mean, yeah, that is the other thought, is that by that time, hopefully enough people have gotten vaccinated where they wouldn't have that rule anymore.
I feel once they reach like 90-95% or something, I think they're at like 75-80. Like I feel like they might lift the rule anyway. So that's why I was like, oh, all right, well he won't get hurt if he only plays every other game, kind of thing.
Right. I mean, Dennis and I talked about that last week too, but then we were like, say he does get hurt in the half games that he plays, then he plays 10 games.
Which would have happened and probably will happen.
Probably. But yeah, I mean,
but that all goes down to too, like last season when he hurt his ankle, there was a lot of guys who were probably like, bro, if you would have just played, taped it up, you could at least been a distraction, at least come out in the court and just be a threat. I mean, Joe Harris wasn't doing anything anyways. So you could easily just put somebody else out there, tell Joe Harris to hit the bricks. Kyrie would have been a distraction enough that could have opened things up for a lot of people, aka Kevin Durant, who basically carried the entire Nets team on his all the way to Game 7 overtime. If Kyrie was out there, who knows if that could have opened up the couple more points that would have been needed to have the Nets advance to the advance even further in the postseason. So
very true. And I mean, Kyrie Irving with half the mobility is still better than a lot of people. So he definitely could have been a threat at the very least. But with that being said, preseason wise, we brought up some observations last week, but this week, I mean, it's a lot of the same kind of stuff. There's nothing exactly super new or anything like that. So we will just move on to our final divisional preview before the season starts. And of course, we saved the Atlantic Division for last. So last year, as everyone knows, Sixers were in first, Nets in second, Knicks in third, Celtics in fourth, Raptors in fifth. We will start off with the Raptors. We're going to go bottom up again. Toronto, 2-3 in the postseason preseason so far this year. Last year, 27-45, pretty much an entire meltdown. They had a lot of injuries. They had a lot of COVID issues. And ever since like the first quarter of the season, they were decent, but then it all fell apart. So this year they loaded up with some younger players. They brought in Scottie Barnes. They brought in also Delano Banton, David Johnson. They traded away Lowry, as everybody knows there. They have Goran Dragic now. They also brought in Precious. I think it's Achua. Achua. They brought in Precious. They also brought in Justin Champagnie, my guy from Pitt. They even brought in a throwback name, Sam Decker. I keep forgetting they brought Sam Decker back, but he's there as well. And then last year, mid-year, they traded for Gary Trent Jr. And I mean, that's mainly a lot of the guys that they added. Me personally, I think they're going to have a better season than last year. Especially as long as, I mean, it sounds like almost all of them are vaccinated, especially because I think it's Canada that said if you're not vaccinated and you go into a public place, you could be even arrested and put in jail for 30 days. So at that point, I kind of hope they're vaccinated.
They're going to send the Royal Canadian Mounted Police after them.
Yeah, you're going to see them riding horseback into the gym.
Right.
Well, just a little fun fact on Precious Achua. His brother played for St. John's. His brother's name is God's Gift.
Oh, I've heard his name before.
Yeah. His family, just to give you a little background, his family is God's Gift, God's Will, Promise, Grace, and Peace. It's a very interesting set of names.
Those are some pretty cool names. I mean, hey, they all mean some really good things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, I think they'll be, they'll be better than last season.
There we go.
Not a whole lot better, but I think they'll be better. I think like they won 27 games last year. I would probably put them up for like between 30 to 32 games.
Yeah.
Wait. This team, just looking at this team, it's like a lot of the same kind of players. Precious Achua, OG Anunoby, Scottie Barnes, Pascal Siakam. They're all guys that like are developmental type. Like they're not like flashy. You hit the ground as a rookie and you're averaging 20 and 10. You know, they're all guys that like are raw. That came in, maybe not so much Scottie Barnes, but OG is like Pascal Light, or you know what I'm trying to say. It's like all these guys need development or needed development at some point in their career, and like they're all like very similar players. I think this is going to be a team that's going to be very scrappy and like find ways to win games. I think that I could see them winning more than like I could see them pushing 40 wins. I'm not saying they're going to win 40 games. I could see them being 37, 45. Like I could see them being 40 and 42 at best. They just have they're very set up to play a lot of like positionless basketball, with Fred VanVleet being the one guy who's like, no, you're the point guard. But like they can roll out like a bunch of athletes, a bunch of guys that can play 94 feet. You got, Dragic is a good veteran. And Gary Trent's an interesting guy to bring in from where did he come from? Portland. But
yeah.
They do lack height. Their tallest guy I'm seeing is 6'9". It's like a college team.
True.
Good number.
Nice.
That's why they brought in Sam Decker and Kem Birch, who are both also 6'9". They even brought in Reggie Perry, but they're going to be an interesting team to watch. That's a Game Pass team. I think you said Memphis was that last year. Toronto's a Game Pass team.
Yeah, I mean, the way you said they're set up for positionless basketball, I think that's my favorite thing about this team. Like in the preseason, since Birch has been out, since Boucher has been out, and those guys, it has been honestly really fun to watch Precious at the 5 and then Barnes at the 4, and then they had OG, Gary Trent, and then Fred VanVleet all in the same lineup. Like, that was fun to watch because honestly, especially with Precious, Scottie, and OG, they were switching pretty much everything. Against the Sixers, there was one point when OG was even covering Joel Embiid. I mean, that didn't go well because obviously OG is not going to be able to cover like a top 5 center, but it just opens a lot of things up for them. And also Nick Nurse is a big fan of running the 2-3 zone every so often. So that look with all of those guys that have length, athleticism, and just like the scrappiness needed for that kind of defense is just fun to me. And then if you bring Pascal Siakam back as well, because he's also been out, if you add him to the mix instead of Gary Trent Jr., that's just even more length. So yeah, I think that they will scrap their way to wins, but I don't think it's going to be as much as you say. I do think it's going to be between 30 and 32 wins.
Yeah, I'm giving them a little more, like I said, a little more optimism there. But can I give you a little fun fact about Nick Nurse?
Sure.
He used to coach in England. And Dennis Rodman played 3 games for some random team in England. The coach of that team was Nick Nurse.
Did not know that. I knew he coached the Raptors G League team to a championship before coaching their NBA team to a championship.
I coached a few teams in England. It was the Birmingham, no, maybe not. It was I can't remember. But Dennis Rodman played for one of these teams for 3 games.
How old was he? Like 40-something at the time?
Oh, the Brighton Bears. The Brighton Bears signed a 3-game contract.
Sounds more like a soccer team.
Yeah, England sounds awful.
He was like 45 years old at the time.
I can say the food in England is terrible.
Oh, here it is. 2005-2006. The highlight of the year was undoubtedly the signing of NBA legend Dennis Rodman for 3 games.
Oh, God.
Mr. North Korea himself.
But, Dennis, your thoughts on Toronto?
So I was going to drop a fun fact. Sam Decker, father-in-law. Kevin Harlan.
I know that.
Oh, I thought
Olivia
Sam Decker was your father-in-law. I was like, what?
No. His wife is Olivia
I did not know
Decker.
That,
well, I've tried to come up with some fun facts. So, I mean, it's not as good as Mike's, but, I mean, give me some credit for trying.
No, it is. I never knew
It's not a fun fact when I already knew that.
Well, it's because you don't have a life and you don't do anything.
I didn't know that, so I liked it.
Thank you. It's because you actually have, like, a social life. But anyways, so we got 4 players on the Raptors who have played in front of the Toronto fans. Nobody else on that roster has played in front of Toronto fans. OG, Boucher, VanVleet, Siakam are the only 4 guys. So we're looking at a completely different team in Toronto after 19 months. They lost Lowry, Baines, Bembry, Hood. They picked up Scottie Barnes on draft night, which shocked a lot of people. So they got my whole thing with Scottie Barnes is is that they didn't draft him at number 4 for no reason at all. This guy's not going to come in and just be relegated to a developmental role. I believe they're expecting him to come in and make an impact right away. Based on his preseason prowess at this point, he has shown to be more than capable in all areas. Defensively, he's getting blocks, he's getting steals, he's passing the ball. Turnovers have been kind of a thing. In the first game of preseason, he had 5 turnovers. Shooting has kind of been, but this is a guy who is going to contribute. This is a guy who I think the Pascal Siakam experiment is over. I don't think there used to be that whole is Pascal Siakam ready to be the face of the Toronto Raptors? I think that's answered at this point. I don't think he's a guy that they can build around. I think Pascal Siakam's expendable. I don't think the future of this team is going to be Scottie Barnes. With that said, because the guys on their team, there's a lot of just vulnerable guys there. OG can't really stay healthy that much. Excuse me, I'm getting like you, Alex, and you Zyrtec. Yeah, he's not completely street clothes, but OG's gotten banged up over the years. Dragic is not going to be there for the long haul. I could see him packing his bags halfway through the season and get traded for something. So yeah, I mean,
traded the first injury that happens to a playoff team.
Right, and that would be a very logical move to make, especially for a guy like him who's a very capable. He's not a guy that you can just. He's not up to the everyday grind of the NBA. We know this, but he's a guy that when he can get on the floor, and you limit his minutes and get him out there when it counts. This is a guy who is a very capable floor general, a guy who can pass, a guy who can run. He's just a great point guard. He's been hindered by injuries, not by poor performances. He's a little inconsistent, but overall, he's a really solid point guard.
You give him 20 to 25 minutes a game, and I think you have a great sixth man.
Oh yeah, and Scottie Barnes. I mean, when you have Pascal's going to be out until November with that shoulder thing, and then who knows how long it's going to take him to ramp up his minutes. Kem Birch, Boucher have already been plagued with injuries and absences and stuff since then. So Scottie Barnes' path, because he's so versatile, he can play so many positions. His path to adequate playing time is there right off the bat. And even when Siakam comes back, the way, like Mike said, the way they can move guys around, Scottie Barnes could easily fit somewhere into the starting lineup, especially if you move Siakam to the 5. Scottie could play the 4. Like, there's so many different ways that they can go. But, yes, I see Scottie Barnes is getting plenty of minutes throughout the year consistently.
Oh, yeah. I completely agree. And I'm one of the biggest Siakam fans there are. I mean, he was the guy that I predicted from the start. And I think that Scottie Barnes is going to be a better version of Siakam. I think Scottie Barnes is going to be what Toronto hoped Siakam would be. And right now, this coming season, I think that OG Anunoby is going to be their number one guy. I think he's going to have a breakout season. And then I think Van Vliet.
You mean like he's going to break something?
I mean, he could. But no, I like just watching his in-game flow, his footwork, and his offensive confidence so far. It's been worlds better than he was last season. But Fred VanVleet is going to be the number 2 guy. Scottie Barnes is going to be the number 3 guy. And then Barnes is going to work his way up to like 1B. And I think that's how it's going to go, like, just in terms of those roles.
We really going to let Alex talk down about my guy Fred VanVleet right now?
Yeah, I was going to say this is VanVleet's team right now.
Yeah,
OG.
What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, you better check yourself.
Watch. OG's going to put up 25 to 26 a game.
Knee. No, he's
going to put up.
Maybe if OG was playing 2K against Dennis, he'd put up 25, 26 a game.
All right. Book it. 25, 26 a game.
And we can't forget about Isaac Bonga and Svi Mihailuk.
Shvi.
What
Bonga
is it?
Shvi Mihailuk. Do you know where he went to college?
Rutgers.
No. Israel. Oh.
Kansas.
The way you said his name, I was like, Israel. But Bonga is one of those underrated 2K My Team guys that got like the 95 card and he could just dunk on anybody. That was a great time. But anyway.
I'm boycotting 2K this year for one, it's too damn expensive. I mean, who the hell am I kidding? I'm going to buy it eventually, but I don't want to buy it until basketball season. Two, can we stop with these microtransactions?
Oh, God.
I would love to stop with that on all video games.
Dennis is just showing his age. Let's get to the next team.
Sorry to inconvenience you, Mike.
So, moving on. Next team is the Boston Celtics. Last year, 36-36. They also a lot of issues with injuries. They might be one of the biggest teams that had issues with COVID last year too. They had, I mean, almost every single player on their team was out with COVID at one point last season. Tatum, I mean, another step in his growth. Jaylen Brown, it sucked that they didn't have him at the end of last season, but Brown was showing to be improved as well. They finally got rid of Kemba. Kemba was a big thorn in their side because they got him thinking he would be an improvement from Kyrie, when really they pretty much played the same amount of games. So in the end, it didn't exactly help them or hurt them at the same time.
Well, at least Kemba's not an asshole, though. He didn't play because he just couldn't play.
True.
Don't ever put them in the same conversation.
Kemba was definitely a much better team player. But draft-wise, they didn't really add anybody.
I was going to say, thank God they got Dennis Schroeder. He's
True.
filling some voids over there.
They bring in Dennis Schroeder on a 1-year, $5.9 million deal. When he turned down a ton more money from the Lakers.
Even though he said he never was officially offered that, which is
true.
Lying.
I kind of find that BS though.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, draft-wise, they didn't really have any picks. They had one pick. It was the 45th pick, and they drafted Johan Begarin, who is still playing over in France. He didn't come over. But they brought Al Horford back. They brought Cantor back. They brought in Theo Pinson, former Net and former Knick.
He's the slut of the Atlantic Division right now.
Apparently, but he's always referred to as a great bench and team guy.
They got Juancho Hernan Gomez.
Yes, bring in Hernan Gomez as well. They brought in former Villanova player Ryan Arcidiacono.
Theo's so good he's been on 2 teams in the Atlantic Division already.
3.
This is his 3rd.
No, I mean 2 before this.
Oh yeah.
So the Nets and the Knicks just kind of they're done with them. They rolled over. They're having a cigarette. You know what I mean?
I'm looking at the Boston Celtics roster right now. It looks like a AAU, like an all-star AAU team of guys that don't translate into the NBA, with the exception of Tatum and Brown, and maybe the time.
And Marcus Smart.
Like every one of these guys. No, but Marcus Smart fits into that description. Like I'm looking at their roster. Every one of these guys is like a top 20 recruit coming out of high school. Like
true.
Cantor was, Langford was, Jabari was,
Smart
was. Arcidiacono wasn't top 20, but he was up there. Pritchard was up there. Pinson was up there. Like every one of these guys is like, oh, it's like they went down like Rivals.com and looked at the top 100 and just kept drafting guys off of that list.
Oh, they did also add Josh Richardson, by the way. I forgot to add him.
There's a reason you forgot to add him.
Yeah, because he sucks.
He sucks.
But not like I like Boston's starting 5. And then I like Al Horford, especially on this team. And then, I mean, Peyton Pritchard was showing a little there. He was showing some skill and talent. Romeo Langford is a guy that I feel like should make a bit of a jump, but I'm just like waiting for him to actually finally do it. Like Romeo, he has the right build and everything, especially for the NBA, that 6'4", combo guard kind of build. but it just seems like the confidence and the consistency and everything just hasn't been there yet. Schroeder, I mean, I think he's going to be the same thing he was last year. So, like, I like 6 to 7 of these guys, but I don't think that's going to be enough to put them in the top 6 in the East, especially because the East got better.
Let's just say Peyton Pritchard. He's basically just a younger TJ McConnell.
You watch your mouth.
He's a homeless version.
He's like
of
caffeine-free TJ McConnell.
He's like those alcohol-less beers, like the Heineken Zero. He's like that version of TJ McConnell. The one where it's like, what's even the point?
That's like drinking decaffeinated coffee.
Exactly. But fun fact, assistant coach, they bring in ex-NBA player Damon Stoudemire. I did not even know he was coaching until recently when they announced him as an assistant coach, but always liked watching Damon Stoudemire when he played. And I think Ime Udoka is I think he's going to be a pretty good head coach. And so far, I will give Brad Stevens props for his front office job so far with his first half a season / just off season so far. He has done a decent job. He's done better than I expected him to, at least. So I'll give him that. But overall, I think the team's going to be right around 500 again. I think they might be. I would give them like 42-40. I think that's like right where they're going to hang around.
I honestly think that this is a team that may not make the official playoffs. I think they may have to do the play-in game, and they're one injury away from the whole season just being a complete bust. So they better pray either Tatum or Jaylen Brown doesn't get injured, because if either of those guys get hurt, they are in trouble.
Agreed.
I think Tatum's going to lead the league in shot attempts per game this year, because there's really nobody else on that team that, except for Jaylen Brown, who could be trusted on the offensive end. Marcus Smart is a capable defender. He can get hot when he's shooting. However, there are times as well when he just doesn't play well.
True. But he keeps chucking anyway.
he tries, though. You know what I mean? Schroeder is just a joke at this point. He's not the same guy that he was in OKC or even Atlanta, for that matter. He's a laughing stock now. He turned down big money. He's been playing like garbage. So he could be a surprise. He could be one of those guys where they're like, "Whoa, Dennis Schroeder, he's back." But right now, he's a joke, and you can't really depend. I mean, when you have him as like one of your point guard options, I mean, that's pretty atrocious. Al Horford's back, thank God, because Robert Williams, who the hell knows what's going to happen to him? His toe almost fell off last year. I could see more injuries in his future, even though the guy can get like 10 blocks and 26 rebounds a game if he wanted to. Other than that, he's really nothing. Well, I mean, he does enough, but he's not a guy who he's not really like a huge offensive threat. So, as I said, they better hope Tatum and Jaylen Brown stay healthy, because if either one of those guys goes down, especially for a significant period of time, they're in trouble, and they better get on that horn and better be talking to the Wizards and start talking about Bradley Beal.
Yep. Completely agree. Especially if Tatum goes down. If Tatum misses anywhere more than like 15 games, I can see them being like the 11th seed. Like Tatum is the entire team.
Oh yeah, I mean this I don't see good things at all. one of those guys gets hurt, like I said, in nauseam, it's over for them.
Oh, yeah. And they better give Tatum some off days. Otherwise, that man's going to be exhausted.
Well, he's young. He can handle it.
Yeah, true.
He's only 19.
So, as everyone always says. So, next team up.
Well, hold on. I didn't give you my wins and loss.
Oh, all right.
I have to disagree with Dennis here. So, he said 42 and 40, right? I
said 42 and 40.
What did Dennis say?
He said just a play in like a 10 or a 9 seed.
All right. Well, I'm going to give them, just to be different, I'm going to say they're going to be 43 and 39. And Dennis is going to be completely wrong. Just because I don't think Dennis really knows what he's talking about.
Okay.
Just remember, you agreed with them earlier, so technically you're saying you don't know what you're
No, when it comes to like non-basketball things, Dennis knows what he's talking about. When it comes to like on the hardwood, like actual basketball things, Dennis doesn't have a clue.
You're such an idiot. Of course I know. Because you know more about who was the Rutgers starting power forward in 2002. You know
Sean
more than I
Exani.
do. Kiss my ass.
It was Sean Exani.
Oh, God.
All right, we going to start talking about Isaiah Joe now? No,
Who?
Not yet.
Not yet. We're definitely going to talk about him because I want to talk about him, but not yet. We're talking about the New York Knicks. Last year, 41 and 31, made the 4th seed, lost to the Hawks. I mean, we talked about it before in their year in review episode. If you guys haven't seen that, check that out. It's on YouTube, everywhere you get podcasts. We all said they smashed their expectations, which is true. No one expected them to be that high. They return a lot of the same people. They bring in Kemba Walker, the hometown hero. They bring him in. They bring in Dwayne Bacon.
Cooking with bacon.
Exactly. And they also bring in Kai Jones through the draft, Keon Johnson. They actually drafted Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, but then traded him. They bring in Jericho Sims. And they also brought in Quentin Grimes. Oh, and Miles McBride.
Rutgers in the second round. Rutgers should have beat Houston, should have went to the Final Four last year. Quentin Grimes brought them back. Him and Dejan Giroux, and I hate both of them. I hope Quentin Grimes never sees the floor.
True. I mean,
it'll be okay, honey. Don't worry about it. It'll be good.
Yeah, you'll.
That's all right. Rutgers beat Amir Sims, the Clemson guy they got.
Okay. But anyway, Miles McBride was really their, big pick. Because I think they traded away Kai Jones anyway. I think Kai Jones is on Charlotte.
Well, Grimes would be their big pick. They got him at 25.
But I thought they got McBride earlier than that.
No, he went 36.
Oh, never mind. So Quentin Grimes their big pick, and then McBride was a lot of Knicks fans were hype about. But yeah, they brought back a lot of people. Mitchell Robinson's still on his way back from being injured. And yeah, they brought in Evan Fournier too. I completely forgot about that. Another
Josh Richardson.
Exactly. I was about to say another reason why there's a reason I forgot about him.
Yeah, same thing.
They also brought in
a ton of money.
They also brought in. Hold on, let's not forget. He's not on the roster anymore. He was on their. He was on. Oh no! They lost. I'm sorry, they lost. He was in one of their subtractions. They lost 2015 Taiwanese All-Star and former net Norvel Pell.
Oh.
Did he have
He's also a former Sixer.
I think Pell had did he have 7 blocks in the game this season?
I think
there was one game that everyone was either resting or hurt, and he just went crazy.
Yeah.
I watched him a lot when I was taking pictures for the Sixers G League team.
Against the Philippines, he nearly recorded a triple-double in 2017 with 23 points, 13 rebounds, and 9 blocks.
Well, and everybody's 5'2" over there.
I was about to say, who do the Philippines have? Andre Bloch. I mean, when was the last time he played in the NBA?
I couldn't tell you.
But anyway, the Knicks, I think they're still going to be a very good team. I still think that they're going to be better than the Celtics. The one thing that worries me with Thibodeau is now that they have Derrick Rose and Kemba Walker, they still have guys like RJ Barrett, Alec Burks. Now they have Evan Fournier. I hope this doesn't make them play Quickly less. Because Quickly is a guy I think that they need to really build upon, especially for the coming years. He's a guy I think that's going to be very good for them. He's going to continue to improve. Overall, though, the team is still solid. They're going to play good basketball. They're probably going to make the playoffs. And I could see them probably getting like a 6 or 7 seed. I don't think they're going to be as good as they were last year. I mean, I know it says 41-31, but also they played less games last year. I could probably see them winning like 44 games, 45 games probably. So that's where I'm going to put them. I'm going to put them like 7 seed.
What we're waiting for me to go is what we're doing.
I mean, whichever one of you wants to go.
I thought they overachieved last year, but Thibodeau is a great coach, so it's not really, against the range of outcomes that they could repeat what they did last year. But no, Mitchell Robinson, isn't he out for the year? Or no. He's out for a while?
He's been out for a while. I mean, he was out most of the end of last year and then has been out ever since. But I mean,
unless Obi comes in and takes a step and actually plays meaningful minutes this year and good minutes, could they? Yeah, they could scrap and claw their way to a 6, 7, 8 seed. But I think this team is headed for a play-in tournament.
I mean, a 7 seed would still be playing.
I just don't see the talent on this roster. I mean, I just don't see it. I think they'll scratch and claw their way to wins, and maybe, Derrick Rose plays well, in games and takes over for them, or Julius Randle repeats what he did last year where he was lefty LeBron James for, most of the season. But I don't see – weren't they a 4 seed last year?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no way they're going to be a 4 seed next year. So
I agree with that.
I could agree with you with their upside is probably 6, 7 seed, but I could see them being in the play-in.
I mean, just remember, 7 and 8 seeds are technically in the play-in.
True. I meant they're getting in as the 9-10.
I got you. So do you have them above or below Boston?
I'd say they're probably below Boston.
Interesting.
Dennis, what is that?
I know Dennis doesn't agree.
You're out of your mind. So the good thing about the Knicks is they really brought back a lot of the same guys from last season. They got Randall, Barrett, Rose, Quickly, Burks, Noel, Robinson, Obi, Mike, Kevin Knox. So they got guys playing who've been playing together for a while. They added Kemba, which is going to add some stability to if he stays healthy, stability to the point guard position. Derrick Rose is there. He's played really well, even at his advanced NBA age. He's a little older, dealt with injuries, but he's played well as well, and he's going to be coming to play a lot for them. So they lost Ntilikina, Alfred Payton, Reggie Bullock. Losing him was probably the worst loss out of those 3 guys. But I don't think you should be worried about Quickly's path to playing time, because we know Tibbs, he likes to play 6 guys a night and doesn't really go into his bench. I don't see any of these rookies getting anything. Kevin Knox is probably on his way out. So, they're defensively, they're right there. They improved tremendously on the defensive end under Tibbs. They have Mitchell Robinson. He dealt with injuries at throughout the season, but then they also have Noel, and they have Taj Gibson, who's kind of come back to life since coming to New York. RJ Barrett's going to be a huge question mark. What kind of player are we going to see this season? Is he finally going to be that guy who could step up to the plate, or is he just going to be that guy who – where the hell did he go?
Oh, I took him out so that we can he's doing something. I don't know.
Yeah, see ya. So can he be that guy who, can step up to the plate, or is he going to be that guy who's we're still waiting for him to be what they expected him to be? So that's going to be the big thing. Julius Randle is just going to be fine. If you hear stories about Julius Randle's work ethic back when Kobe, God rest his soul, I love that guy. I love Kobe, but God rest his soul. When you hear about Kobe's views on him and all the work that Julius Randle was putting in LA, I think he just has that instilled in him where he is not just a one-trick pony. He's a guy that is at that level in his career where now you better start recognizing that this guy's not fooling around. He's a great player, and I see all-star team for Julius Randle this season. He's on my list of all-stars.
Oh, I completely agree. Randle has all the tools capable of being an all-star. And we saw it all on display last year. And I think the next step for me for Julius Randle is to just show that same ability in the playoffs. Because come playoff time, him and RJ Barrett both just disappeared, and that was the main reason why the Knicks even ended up losing. It's because their 2 best players disappeared, and they had to put their entire offense on the shoulders of an older, battered Derrick Rose. So, I definitely see Julius Randle in that all-star category. Even I could even see him as an all-star starter, depending on who else gets in there.
Nah, because if Kyrie doesn't play, he's still going to get starting votes anyway. So all-star selection for him, sure. He's on my list with Lonzo Ball and all the other guys that I forgot about. But yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Starter wise, it does get a little tough for him, especially since they have Durant, Embiid, and Giannis, and
right.
It gets a little tough there.
Right.
But yeah, I agree. So in that case, Mike will join us at any point here, but we'll move on anyway. We go from the Knicks to the other New York team, your guys' team, the Brooklyn Nets. Last year, they finished 48-24. Obviously, as we've talked about before, especially when we were talking about Kyrie, they had a lot of injuries, and in the playoffs, it was essentially just Kevin Durant. They obviously had a lot of COVID-related stuff and injuries and everything, and that ultimately ended up being their downfall against Milwaukee. This year, they bring in one of the guys that I think is very interesting. They bring in Cam Thomas in the draft. They also brought in Kessler Edwards and Marcus Zagorowski and Raekwon Gray. Those guys, I don't think are really going to end up making the team or making the roster at any point. But they also brought in Patty Mills. They brought in Paul Millsap, James Johnson. They brought in DeAndre Bembry. Was that this offseason, or did they bring him in last year?
I think they brought him. No, they brought him in this season.
Okay.
So all these seasons blur together, man. I can't even remember.
They really, especially these last three. I mean, when the games there wasn't as many games, and then there was the pause in the one season, and they finished that season. It really does feel like all 3 seasons into one.
Right.
But yeah, they bring in a decent amount of guys. They retain the big 3. Obviously, they retain Joe Harris. They bring back Blake Griffin. They're bringing back LaMarcus Aldridge now after that whole fiasco.
That's awesome.
I know. I just love seeing him back on the court. I've always been a fan of LaMarcus Aldridge, so him being back is really cool, and I'm glad he's able to play and be healthy. And also, I mean, you still have the role player guys in terms of like Bruce Brown and Nick Claxton. And you brought in Javon Carter, which I thought was a kind of an underrated addition there. But so obviously championship hopes, championship odds are big for this team. It's pretty much championship or bust. So, I mean, I see them winning the championship barring any kind of crazy injuries and if Kyrie finally gets vaccinated.
Well, I don't think Kyrie's status is really going to be that detrimental to whether they're going to win an NBA title or not. The Nets have 2 of the top 5 players in the entire league. I don't care. Anybody can argue with me all they want, but they're in the top 5 without a doubt. Kevin Durant arguably is the best player in the league. James Harden is arguably the best player in the league. So you got 2 of the best players in the league. James Harden can run the floor. He doesn't need – Kyrie doesn't have to be there. Even though Kyrie is like one of the most naturally best basketball players that you'll ever see. The guy doesn't even look like he's trying. His skills, dribbling, he's amazing. With that said, it is what it is. They still have James Harden and Kevin Durant. Health is a huge thing. Load management might be in the equation, but there's a lot of potential. Joe Harris has to play well and not play like he did during the Milwaukee series. Mike's boy Nico Claxton is ready to take that next step and emerge as a stellar, legit backup power forward / center. He might even be getting some run. Potentially. He could play a bunch of positions. We know the Nets play small, so it's not really that big of a deal that they don't really have like great presence in the middle because it's not what they are. But they brought Bruce Brown back, who's gritty and tough and can step up when he needs to. And they have Blake Griffin still, and they have LaMarcus Aldridge, and Bembry can play well when he wants to. In Toronto he played well. Cam Thomas, I mean, he's right up there with like Isaiah Joe in terms of guys who during the preseason, you're like, this guy is just, everybody's raving about him. He's played well. So they got Patty Mills. Let's not discredit Patty Mills. This guy has been on championship teams. He's a more than capable starting point guard if that's what's needed to happen. So, yeah, for sure. I mean, the Nets are looking good, and I don't want to hear about Philly either because Philly's just not in a position right now. Philly's in a worse position now than Brooklyn is. Brooklyn's not even really in that bad of a position because they still have the 2 top 5 best players in the league. Kyrie was just be like adding vanilla ice cream to a piece of pie. You know what I mean?
To the apple crisp you had last week?
Oh, yeah. We did it. we really – yeah, we did. Philly vanilla is what I had.
Yeah, I remember you saying it was Philly vanilla. Mm-hmm. That sounded good. But no, I agree. I think that like your championship odds are still very good without Kyrie. With Kyrie, I think they're like far and above the best. Without Kyrie, it's still up number 1. But It's just not as separated from the number 2 team as it would be with Kyrie. That's the only difference.
The Bucks still can cause problems, especially.
True.
I mean, Drew Holiday, if that guy plays like he did last year, that's not a team you want to mess with. The Warriors aren't any, but the Warriors did well in the draft. And hey, look who's back.
Technical difficulties.
That Taco Bell finally caught up to him from yesterday.
Pretty much.
He pulled a Lamar Jackson.
Yep.
That's a
Stomach, gastrointestinal issues.
But anyway, Mike, your thought on Brooklyn?
If Kyrie was playing, I think we'd be 82-0. Without Kyrie, I think they're going to be 74-8.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding.
I mean,
record-wise, I think probably a fair estimate, I'd say, is probably 62-20. Team is loaded. You got veterans that they, obviously KD and Durant, KD and Harden, but then you got veterans like Blake Griffin, Aldridge, Patty Mills, DeAndre Bembry. You got young guys like Nick Claxton, Cam Thomas. I even like the other guy we got. What's his name? Day'Ron Sharp. It's just a good group of, good Paul Millsap, I think, right, and James Johnson. Like, those guys are going to fill their roles good. Javon Carter's a good backup point guard, defensive-minded guy. This team doesn't have a weakness. They could score from the outside. They have size now with the guys that they brought back and the guys that they added. The only glaring weakness or issue is Kyrie Irving, but there's depth 1 through 13 on this roster. I think Steve Nash is going to figure out good rotation, good way to use all these guys, good way, there's just talent everywhere, depth everywhere. I've never been more excited as a Nets fan. So I think
I wouldn't necessarily say that Kyrie not being there is the only weakness, though, because especially you have a lot of guys that could fill in as a committee wise until Kyrie comes back, even if he does or doesn't come back. I think the only weakness Brooklyn has is paint presence and rim protection. I think that's the only weakness. I mean, Claxton does a decent job at it. And I think some of the other guys can do okay at it, but you don't have like that elite paint presence, that elite rim protection or anything. I think that's the only weakness.
I disagree.
When it comes to,
I don't necessarily 100% agree there. We don't have like Rudy Gobert, but Nick Claxton is really, I think, going to take a big step forward this year. I think having Aldridge, having Claxton, maybe we see something out of Day'Ron Sharp, but he's just a body. He's going to be a body at this point. But out of Claxton and out of all the thing that people don't understand what Aldridge is going to add is Brook Lopez was what beat the Nets last year. It wasn't all, yes, Giannis killed us, but Brook Lopez was what beat the Nets last year. How many times Giannis would brick a free throw and Brook Lopez would tap it back out because we didn't have a guy that could go up for the ball with him and box him out. And I think bringing back Aldridge, Claxton getting bigger, stronger, another year in the league, developing more, I just think you're going to see a much better, a much cleaner game from the Nets. And I think if they run into a team like the Bucks again, that it's not going to be, these close games where we lose because of possession here or Durant's foot size is too big and we lose. I think the Nets should, if everyone stays healthy and if we can get Kyrie Irving back, should win the NBA championship. And I don't think it'll be close. I think this team is just going to run straight through the Eastern Conference. The Sixers are a mess. I don't think the Bucks, if we're healthy, I don't think the Bucks are going to beat us again.
And then we forget too that the Nets have had now they've actually had a training camp to put this all together. Harden came in after the season had started. Now Harden had expressed how important it was to build cohesiveness with his teammates. He's hanging out with these guys outside of official team capacity. He's getting to know these guys, are building chemistry. And yeah, they don't have a true center, but I mean the Nets are capable of putting up 250 points a game, so it doesn't really matter. I mean, they're just this is a lethal team when they're Joe Harris don't need to cut his damn hair because I mean he can't make a shot anyways, so now he's got that crap blinding him. Joe, cut your hair.
Yeah, I mean, I don't say that that's the weakness, meaning like that's gonna be your downfall and not your reason to not win a championship.
No, you meant it. You're your typical Philly. We have Joel Embiid. We have a great center, and everybody else sucks. I knew what you meant.
No, but I think the
street clothes Embiid.
I think the perfect center for the Nets, especially right now, would be somebody like Nerlens Noel, Mitchell Robinson, like that prototype of a player. I think that would
you don't
be
think
the
Claxton
perfect guy.
can get to that?
I think he might be able to, but at this stage, especially defensively,
I didn't say nothing about Nico Claxton. I didn't say anything negative since
there's not a better on-ball defending center in the league than Nico Claxton.
But I didn't say anything. I haven't said anything negative about Nico Claxton in a year.
I don't mean Alex.
So lay off of me,
Alex. I don't mean low post defense. I mean on ball. You can't switch on Nico. You can't get a guard to switch on Nico Claxton and think the guard is just gonna, barbecue chicken him.
But you can't do that with Noel either.
Yeah, Claxton's better.
I disagree with that. But I think that he can get to that level. I just don't know if it's going to happen or not. That's all I'm saying. But I agreed with you guys saying that easily the championship favorites, and they should win the championship as long as everyone's healthy.
I mean, you have no choice but to agree with that.
I mean, I could say that the Lakers are going to beat you.
Come on.
I'm just saying I could.
Come on.
That's what other people have said.
Well, you know what? You know what would be a great way to start off a championship season?
By losing
October
to the
22nd. Alex and I sitting at the Wells Fargo Center watching the Brooklyn Nets play in the Atlantic Files matchup between the Nets and the Sixers.
The issue is
I will bring Deanna as your girlfriend, right?
Yeah.
I will bring her a Philly cheesesteak from Pat's or Gino's. I will get her I have this Ravens painting that I can give you guys.
Oh God, she's a Steelers fan.
Oh, I will go to Pittsburgh and get her a terrible towel.
Just buy her a bottle of ketchup.
Just a Heinz ketchup bottle. There were so many things wrong with that statement because, as a true Philly person knows, Pat's and Gino's are the worst places to get a cheesesteak.
All right, well, where do you go? Well, you know what? Don't even tell me. You could take me when we go to the Nets Sixer game.
Oh.
I mean, I want to go.
Everyone can go. But anyway, as you said, we will get into the Philadelphia 76ers. Last year, first place by one game, 49-23. Everyone has seen the meltdown that they had at the hands of Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks. Wasn't great and still continues to not be great as they are still waiting to see what happens with Ben Simmons. He apparently is in Philly now. He apparently took his COVID test, his physical. He's waiting to see what happens with that. But in other terms, the Sixers also brought in Andre Drummond to replace Dwight Howard. They brought in George Niang. They drafted Jaden Springer. They drafted Philip Petrusev, Charles Bassey. They also brought in Grant Riller, Shaquille Harrison. But pretty much everyone else is the same.
From the NFL player?
What? Shaquille Harrison, you mean?
Yeah, it's a bad joke. It's getting late. Like,
but anyway, so I think that the whole finish of this coming season depends on what the hell happens with the whole Ben Simmons situation.
Oh, but I thought he wasn't that good.
I never said he wasn't.
He can't shoot, so why should it matter?
I never said that either.
Well, we all know Mike is the one, and we all know
Mike is the one that says he can't shoot, so he's the worst person in the NBA.
Yeah, but you know what this is? It's the classic. You don't know what you got till it's gone.
Oh, I completely agree.
You know what you got, and you barely got anything.
That's
the
not
defense
true.
is going to be a whole lot worse.
Mm-hmm.
The offense, depending on who they get for Ben Simmons, is going to look much different. However, I will say so far in the preseason, the spacing has been a lot better. However, they just haven't had anybody to fill in for the playmaking ability yet, especially because both Shake Milton and Tyrese Maxey are not the pass first guys. They're not the big time playmaking passing ability guys. So there's obviously going to be growing pains there.
But if they could shoot, they'll be fine.
I mean, that's true, though. If you can score 120 a game, you're still going to win.
No, and I'm saying at the point guard spot, they can shoot. There's Ben Simmons means nothing. It's just it's comical to me that they spent the entire playoffs shitting on Ben Simmons, and now that he's gone, all of a sudden they're trying to figure out who's gonna like fill that void.
I mean, yeah, I agree. And my main thing here is I am fully aware that losing to the Hawks in the postseason was not all Ben Simmons' fault. Doc Rivers at least shares 50%. Doc Rivers was the one that refused to change anything going on with the team in game. And even when it came to the second, third, fourth, fifth game, there was still a lot of things he refused to change in terms of game plan, in terms of even defensively, even pick and roll wise with the ball handler and attacking certain matchups. He did all of it wrong. And on top of that, yes, other guys could have also played better. I mean, essentially it came down to like Seth Curry and Joel Embiid were the entire offense in terms of scoring, and everyone else just disappeared. So it's not just Ben Simmons who disappeared. It's not just Ben Simmons who ruined everything. But the way that this season pans out is going to depend. They keep saying they want Ben Simmons and they want to run it back with Ben Simmons. I don't think that ship has sailed a long time ago. That ship has been sailed. That ship was like Columbus sailed that ship. That's how long ago that shit sailed. And so it depends who they get for Ben. They obviously are going to try to get a point guard because they need one pretty badly. And if they just make him sit out the year, I could see this team being all the way down in like a 7-8 seed. So,
especially when your man's gets hurt.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm already banking on the fact he'll probably play 65 games. That's like his norm. So he'll probably play 65 games. The moment he's out, your offense is technically just Danny Green, Seth Curry, and Tobias Harris, which, if you're playing the worst of the worst teams, maybe that gets you a win, but that's not going to get you many. So my thing is they will trade him. they'll get probably like borderline, like starter players, but not all-star players or anything like that. That's probably who they're going to end up getting, unless they start packaging guys like Maxey and all them as well. And I think they'll finish probably a 5 seed.
The process is over.
The process.
It's not over. It's not over until Embiid stops playing.
Joel, the process, Embiid, they failed.
There's no process. No, it's a failure.
It didn't fail yet.
Yeah, they failed pretty good so far. And it's if this is success for you, one of your second best player on the team, not wanting anything to do with that, only showing up so that he doesn't lose any more money, already sold his crib in Philly. Yeah, it's over.
I disagree. But anyway.
The first step is acceptance.
It has to be true to accept it.
Well, you keep, if you want to live in that fantasy land of yours, man, keep doing it.
I'm just saying, I feel as though there is a bigger trade than people think is coming with it. Not that we're going to get any, but I don't think Damian Lillard's coming. I don't think Bradley Beal is coming. I don't think that kind of big trade is going to happen, but I do think like a 4-team trade is going to end up happening to get Ben Simmons out of Philly.
Yeah, it's called, Goran Dragic and Pascal Siakam. How you doing?
They already have had better offers than that.
No, but I could see something stupid like that happening.
Well, yeah, I mean, that would piss me off.
Well, get ready to get pissed off because...
I would already take Brogdon and Karis LeVert over that.
Nah, that ship has sailed.
I mean, the Pacers say they're still talking about it, so I don't know.
Nah, it's over. Sorry.
But anyway, where you guys think they're going to finish? I know you're probably going to say not even the playoffs, so.
Who's you? Me or Mike?
Both of you.
No, I think Embiid's good enough to get him to 40 wins. I'll say 45 and 37.
So like a 7 seed, 6 seed?
Probably.
Yeah, I could see. I mean, Embiid is MVP.
It depends if they trade Simmons and what they get for him. If they get like a CJ McCollum level player, then we're talking 50 wins. If they get, if they get like Kelly Oubre, then we're talking 45 wins.
John Wall, come on down.
Oh, God.
Hey, I tell you, he ain't looking too bad right now, though.
I mean, he really isn't, but you talk about street clothes.
Well, yeah.
He's got to be Hall of Fame.
Ruptured his Achilles.
He's got to be Hall of Fame street
What
clothes.
do you think he was doing in the shower when he ruptured his Achilles?
Dancing.
Same thing you've been doing in the shower for years.
No, I've slipped and fell in my shower before. I've never ruptured my Achilles.
Didn't Rondo break his wrist or his hand by falling in the shower?
I can understand that. You fall and you like break your fall.
So it's
like you fall and you what?
So stepmom videos, they get you every time.
Oh my God.
Well, Dennis,
on that note, I think that's a good place to wrap up this week's episode.
See ya.
Bumblebee tuna.
As long as, if you guys don't have anything else to add, I think that's where we'll wrap it up.
That's all I got.
Dennis, you have anything to add about the Sixers?
Well, I do. It's not appropriate, so let's end it.
Okay. Well, that's it for us. Thank you, everybody, for watching another episode of The Atlantic Files, the #1 podcast in the #1 division in the NBA, brought to you by the Underdog Sports Podcast Network.
Shout out to the 50-year-old stepbobs.
Yes.
Shout out
to them too.
Keep looking good.
But make sure you subscribe. YouTube, everywhere you get your podcast. Takes 5 seconds. Just go click the button. Help us out. Do that. Rating, reviews, likes. Helps us everywhere. Thank you guys. And we'll catch you guys next week. Peace.